At any point, feel free to interrupt, ask questions, make comments. The idea is not for me to just convey an idea to you, it's to share it with you in a way that will be meaningful. So, to start off with, a rather radical statement. Jews don't get married. So any idea of what you've heard of marriage doesn't really apply to Klal Yisrael. Kodesh Baruch Hu devised various systems for human beings in which they would propagate and lead lives in their particular way, and different societies around the world have all kinds of different ways in which they provide a framework for a man and a woman to live together and produce children. What happens, what's available to a Jew is a statement which he will make in front of two kosher witnesses to a lady who he selects, and he will then, in front of these two witnesses, give her a gift, which is usually a ring, a certain minimal amount of material value, and as a preface to giving it to her, he'll say one sentence. And I always say a joke, it's a life sentence, that one sentence. What does he say? He doesn't say, let's get married. He doesn't say anything romantic. He says, Haray, behold, at, you are mekudeshesli, sanctified to me, b'tabat zu, with this gift that I'm giving you. So what he undertakes is to sanctify this woman all his life. Just a matter of interest, besides all the concepts, my wife and I, my present wife and I, have got 102 years marriage experience between us. I was married for 43 wonderful years to my late wife Claire. She came from Cape Town, and sadly she passed away actually here in Eretz Yisrael just over 20 years ago. My present wife was married for 40 years to her late husband, the Americans, and we've now just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. So that's about 102 years experience. But it's not only experience, it's uncovering the tremendous beauty, pleasure, spiritual experience that God has planted into this potential experience of a man and a woman. And so that is, first of all, it's nothing to do with marriage. It's a undertaking, opportunity that a man has to sanctify a woman. Now, many people, you say all the time, Asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav. What do you mean? You sanctified. What does it mean to become sanctified? So it's very important to understand what Kedusha is. So the way it's explained is as follows. In order to sanctify something, you have to have absolute clarity about what you're dealing with. And once you understand what you're dealing with, you then have to deal with it in the appropriate manner. And how do you know what the appropriate manner is? HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us 613 mitzvahs, which gives us information about the appropriate way to act with the 613 parts of our body. Now we've got 365 limbs and 248 sinews, keneged, the positive and the negative mitzvahs that we're given. So it's nothing to do with religion. In fact, it's really nothing to do with spirituality as understood in the world around us. It is harnessing every opportunity in life with everything that we deal with every part of our body, to extract out of that experience a positive consequence, which is becoming kadosh, becoming sanctified. And why do we want to become kadosh? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu advised us, kadoshim tihiyu. When we became the Jewish people, he advised us that our process, our program is kadoshim tihiyu. Why should you become kadoshim? Ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokecha. because I, your God, am kadosh. That's what God is. And so getting close to God is not some kind of course, you go to the koisel, you feel more closeness, you go to a shul, but closeness is the product of being somewhat similar. The more similar you are to a person, the more similar you are to anything that you come into contact with life, the closer you will feel. And so we first have to understand what God is when we say we believe in God, and what we're going to become close, how you become somewhat similar to God. So the Derech Hashem, in one sentence, I mentioned it last time when I spoke here before, defines the purpose for which God created the world. Now, this idea of the purpose is very much entrenched in my whole life that I had as an architect, because we were trained, never start a project until you are absolutely clear what the purpose of the building is. And the same thing with anything that you do in life. Before you venture onto any project, get clear what the purpose of your involvement with them is. And so, how do we get close to God? And of course, this will also be how do you get close to a strange thing as a woman, very strange thing women are. And you'll find that out the more and more you have to do with them, the more how strange you'll find it, because there is this ridiculous dream of finding a soulmate, and somehow that will solve everything. No, it doesn't solve anything. It will give the greatest opportunity for you to become the person you've got the potential to become. And just before we go into this whole thing of Kiddushin, it's got on the notice board, love and marriage. Now, what is love? So I heard the most fascinating definition from Rabbi Noach Weinberg, the founder of Yeshivat Torah. Now listen very carefully. He said, love is an emotional feeling of pleasure. An emotional feeling of pleasure which you get when you see true beauty in anything. So you can love architecture, see the beauty, and you can love the creation in flowers, you can love everything. And if you can see the true beauty in another person, the true beauty in them, and there is true beauty in every human being in various ways and various degrees, that will generate inside you an emotional feeling of pleasure. The most natural experience of this is a mother and a baby. Here this mother has served as an incubating place. She got a seed, one drop of a seed from her husband, and then her body was designed to provide an environment in which that seed could grow and develop into a human being. And her body is designed to provide with that baby growing everything that it needs, and then out comes a baby. Now, because of that being a part of her, the closeness that she naturally feels, a mother will always see the beauty in her baby. You know that if there's anybody in the world that you can always rely on, that will love you and care for you no matter what happens and what you do, it's your mother. And it's not just an emotional thing, it's a reality. So this is now the question. If you can see the true beauty in anything, that will generate in you an emotional feeling of love. So love is not something that comes and goes. It is a product of gaining clarity of what you're dealing with. You now came to Ohr Somayach, came to study Torah. What's Torah? So there are lots of books, there's some ideas you can identify with, depending on the country you were born in, the values that you grew up with. You can identify most probably more with Bein Odom L'Chaveiro than with Bein Odom L'Mokom. But as you begin to see the true beauty of Torah, the amazing way in which it incorporates and integrates every action and every part of your body in a way to give you a constant opportunity to become sanctified, which means to uncover the true beauty in you, that's what it is, and also you to be able to have the ability to see the true beauty in everything that you have contact with and focus on that, then you can start to get this emotional feeling of love, an emotional feeling of pleasure, seeing the true beauty. So, please God, when the time comes, you stand under the chuppah and you now make this undertaking to Harei at Mekudeshet li. I'm going to undertake to deal with you not how I feel or when I feel or what I like or what everybody says. I'm going to undertake to sanctify you, like sanctify Shabbos, like sanctify Torah, like sanctify Eretz Yisrael, like sanctify the way you dress, your car, your house, everything in life. How? By dealing with you in the appropriate manner. Now, to be able to know how to deal with a woman in an appropriate manner, we have to find out, where do women come from? God never created woman. God determined at the beginning of creation, after he completed the creation of the whole world, the framework within which the human being would live, to create Adam. And Adam was not a man, and Adam was not a woman. Adam was a hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite is a creature incorporating both male and female components. Perfect. You couldn't get closer. You couldn't be more like one, the male and the female, than Adam was. And yet the posuk in the Torah says, Lo toiv heyoisa Adam levado. This incredibly perfect human being that I've created is a wonderful creation, but lo toiv toiv heyoisa Adam levado. That's the book. It's not good for the human being not just to be alone, but to be able to be alone. Because if you are self-contained and you have everything that you need, you will have a very limited ability to be of benefit to anybody else. So what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? He put Adam to sleep, and then he took away a part of Adam, not the female. He took away a part of Adam, and from the part which he took away, Vayiven es ha'isho, he built the woman. And so a woman is a creation which is formatted from a part of a human being. And so what became a man? A human being minus what has been removed. And so that is why men are always seeking a wife. They're seeking something because they are missing. A whole part of them was taken away. And what they're looking to find, a sense of completion, a sense of totality, is that's really, they don't realize that's why they look. Of course, the world that we live in has distorted the whole thing with all kinds of silly ideas of physical attraction and all kinds of things which are basically tragedy. Very few men and women in this world can live a life of delight, a life of caring, a life of safety, a life of building each other, a life of moving to do what? What are you trying to achieve when you start out on this venture? And therefore the Pasuk says, Al kain yazov Adam es ovi ves imoy. And therefore, now that you clear what has happened, a man has to yazov, disengage from some degree, to some degree, from his mother and father, who are his source of existence. That's what he's made out of. He's made out of the seed of his father, plus the components that his mother produced in order to get that seed to grow into a human being. And so that's why we naturally, a normal human being loves their parents, a natural human being appreciates their parents. But that is a wonderful start. But now, how are you going to incorporate somebody into you that should become a part of you? You have to yazov, disengage to a certain degree from your parents, still got to honor your parents, love your parents. V'dovak be'ishto, and you must cleave to your wife. Towards what goal? V'yihiyu, not close, v'yihiyu lebosar echod, to become one person. That's the goal. Can such a thing be done? Can a husband and a wife become... Oh, sorry. Okay. It'll dry up itself. It's okay. Sorry. Don't disturb. It's okay. Right. So I'm going to make a massive jump. I've never heard anybody or seen written anywhere a description of what it means to be one person with somebody else. But in the last days and years of my late wife's life, when she unfortunately had cancer over the years, she had big operations here in Eretz Yisrael and also in England and so forth, and eventually she was basically in hospital after a major operation, confined to the bed. I can't tell you how much I loved her, but I got permission from the hospital to take cushions and put it on the floor next to her bed, so that if she ever indicated she needed anything, she wouldn't have to try and find a cord to call a nurse or something, that I could immediately provide her with what she needed. And I found a very strange thing happening. I found that when I somehow, even subconsciously, sensed that she needed something, I didn't make a decision to do something for her. My hand went out and did for her what she needed. Like you don't make a decision that you need something, I'm now going to take my hand, take the bottle and so forth. Your hand just does what you need. And so it was a most, even in that saddest of moments, it was a fascinating revelation of the closest I've ever heard of what it means, Boser Echad. I would say in those last days and hours of her life, I was at one with her. I wasn't just doing things for or feeling for her, that's the nearest Boser Echad. Now, this is what the Pasuk says. You now, Harei at Mekudeshet, once you're making an undertaking, the way in which you're going to sanctify, now sanctify again, clarification, you achieve Kedusha when you understand what you're dealing with, and then you deal with it in the appropriate manner. So the whole relationship becomes Kiddushin. So, and then there starts to come up inside you. Now, the Torah doesn't tell you to love people. It doesn't say v'ahavta re'echo. It says v'ahavta l're'echo kamoicha. You should love your fellow like yourself. So, in other words, it's a given that you love yourself. Not in the general sense, but in the real sense. When you wake up in the morning, from the time you wake up till you go to sleep, whose interests are you thinking about? Not that you're selfish, but you're thinking, what's going to be with me? What do I need? Your whole natural way of behaving is like an animal. An animal has been designed by God to constantly ensure that it gets whatever it needs to survive, whether it's food, whether it's an environment, and so forth. And so that is what our body is in a sense. So we are made up actually of a body and 5 dimensions of a soul. You know, there is Kodesh Baruch Hu, when he created Odom, he formed the body by Yivenes Odom, Vayipach be'apov nishmas chaim. So God took earth, which is what animals are made out of, and what our body is. And you know that that's true, because after your life is over, your body is put into the earth, and it disintegrates, and it becomes earth. So God took earth, Vayipach be'apov, and he breathed into that earth the spirit of life. Vayipach be'apov nishmas chaim. And so what happens when you die? God takes out the life. He takes out the spirit of life. He takes out, now what is the spirit of life? So there are very loosely 5 components to the soul. We've got, that is what is the spiritual part of us. That's the life force within us. So it's nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. Now, chaya and yechida are very sophisticated Kabbalistic concepts of what the soul is made out of, but I can deal with the first 3. And it's very useful to know the meaning of these different things. So first of all, chaya is life force. Animals have got chaya. Animals have got, their life force is, we have in common with animals a physical life force. And then we've got a neshama. What is neshama? Every morning in your davening we say it, we clarify it, and that's why the rabbis put it into our davening. Elokai neshama shenosata bi tohorahi. The soul which you gave to me. I am not my soul. I have been given a body, and I have been given a soul, and we have to appreciate that God has given us a soul. Elokai neshama. Sorry, can I just ask this guy, wouldn't you like to have a chair to sit on, or you prefer to stand? Okay, all right. So, Elokai neshama shenosata bi, the soul which you gave to me, tohorahi. It's absolutely pure. It's incorruptible. Nothing that we ever do can in any way mar or damage or undermine the total integrity of the soul, which is chelek Elokai, a part of God. So there, I am not God. I have within me a part of God, a life soul. And what happens when I act inappropriately? I don't destroy the soul. I can't damage the soul. It's absolutely protected. What do? I stain it. I mar its beauty. And so what is tshuva? By regretting what I did and admitting what I did, regretting what I did, and resolving not to do it, I can remove the harm I did to myself, the way I have stained myself, and I can become more spiritual. Why? By removing the barriers that I have put around my soul, between myself and my soul. So that pure soul is, it's not that you are spiritual and all this kind, you have that dimension. And after our life is over, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes away the soul, and then our body is put into the ground, disintegrates. So the thing that's interesting for us is the nefesh and the ruach. So first of all, the nefesh is a life force that keeps us alive. And the real interesting one, ruach. What's the ruach? The ruach is that dynamic part of our personality that's constantly changing. And it is constantly changing, making us more identify with our soul, our pure soul, and less with our physicality. So it's not that you become religious. It's not that you become spiritual. We are in a constant state of dynamic growth, dependent on what? And so you say, of course, very dependent, interesting ideas and learning. The whole issue resolves on how you act. Action is the process by which we either cover up the soul, make our true spirituality that's within us less accessible to us, or we remove it and gain and become so more spiritual. So it's a very exciting process. But most important of all, we're not alone. It's not like God created us and said, okay, jolly good show, good luck, have a good life. God is constantly, fully engaged in everything that we do. And there is this amazing formula called siyata dishmaya, help from God. But you don't just get, you do sometimes get that help from schus others, from whatever, because you're Jews, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and all this sort of thing. But the main way that we get help from God is Pischuli Pesach Kapiska Shalmachas. God says to us, open up an opening the size of an eye of a needle. Just generate in yourself a slight feeling. I'll go to see what Ohr Somayach is. I'll try to do this. I'll try to do this. I'm an average guy. No. Just give yourself a little chance. Just give yourself a little chance. I'll now start to daven with kavona. I'll try to say, what does Baruch mean? What does Ator? What does Hashem mean? What does God mean when I say Baruch Ator Hashem, Elokeinu? What does it mean, Elokeinu? Melech HaOlam. Oh, the Lord our God, the Creator. No, what does it actually mean? How can I internalize it? How can I get excited about saying that first sentence in the Shmoneh Esrei 3 times a day? Baruch, the source of blessing. Ator Hashem. What's Hashem? The source of blessing. What's blessing? That which brings true benefit. So you know what I worship? I worship that which brings true benefit. And I want to get close to that. How do you get close to something or somebody? becoming somewhat similar. So what's my main goal in life? To change myself as much as possible into a source of blessing. And when I act in contradiction to that, I cut myself off from the infinite potential that's in me already, that I don't have to bring from somewhere, I don't have to get from somewhere, I just have to get access to it, that's covering up my soul. So the dynamic part of our ruach is constantly changing. We're all in a state of development. And the main area of activity that we have for growth, of course, the world needs us to look, flowers need us to look after the flowers, but the main thing is each other, people. Your dealings with people are the most growth orientated opportunity. So every person you meet, in every walk of life, in any kind of situation, clients, business, wherever you are, driving the road in traffic, wherever you are in life, your interest is, what can I do to be a source of benefit? And why is that so valuable? Because God created the world. He didn't create the world for all kinds of reasons. He created for one reason, as the Derech Hashem says. God created the world to give of His good to another. And so how can I become close to God? If I could be like God, to give of my good to others, to create a goodness. In other words, so when we worship God, we're worshiping good. So now, where are you going to get a chance to do this? Of course, there'll be people, somebody will fall, you'll pick them up, somebody will have a problem. But once you now undertake to sanctify a wife, from the moment you open your eyes every morning till you close your eyes and say, Krishma, she's available for you to do what? True kindness. True kindness. And so, of course, she also needs to do kindness, but that's not masculine. Masculine is to give. Feminine is to take what's been given and make something significant out of it. How do you produce a human being? The woman creates nothing. She's born with all the eggs she'll ever have. Sometimes they can try to transplant the eggs, whatever it is. And with all that she's been given, the eggs, she can do nothing. She can't do anything with all those eggs, which are potential life of future human beings, unless she gets from her husband what she needs. What does she need? One drop of semen. A tiny drop. If she gets that from her husband, her whole body now can change into an environment to take from a drop of semen and produce a human being. And that's the formula for everything. What is a woman? She is the product of either getting what she needs or not getting. She's dependent. She never said a word under the chuppah. She never said yes. She accepted the ring. She never made any undertaking because she has no responsibility to do anything. She is going to be the product of what is given to her. And if she gets what she needs, she'll blossom and become the most beautiful thing in a husband's life, like my late wife Claire was, and like, amazingly, the strange American lady today. Very different. You know, Americans are very strange people, for South Africans anyway. But we now live a life. I'm 87, please God, on tomorrow is 17th. Is today the 17th? 16th. Tomorrow's my birthday, okay, Tisha B'Av, or Tisha B'Av that it is. And can you imagine two old people, 87 and 83, living an exciting life? Ideas, exchanging, as if we just got married yesterday. Wake up in the morning as if it's the first day of the rest of your life. Now you could say, well, that's you're making it up. It's not making it up. And what's going to determine the day? What's going to determine our life? Not Nancy. I have got to immediately, when I open my eyes, the first thing, make sure I don't open the curtains to wake her. Make sure she's not going to trip over my shoes somewhere. I've got to start my day thinking, what can I do for her? What can I do to benefit her? Not because she's demanding it, not because she's a problem. She's a God-given opportunity. So I start serving God. In other words, I start becoming like God. As soon as you open your eyes, He gives you the facilities to do whatever you need to survive. Food, drink, and light, and oxygen, and all that sort of stuff. So what you're trying to do, you're trying to emulate God. You're trying to say, now what can I do to make this woman the happiest woman in the world? And this is what I saw with my late wife. This is what I saw. Strange that God should give me a chance, a second chance in life, not to go the natural way of meeting her when she's 18 at B'nai Akiva camp and writing letters, and after 5 years and a whole life together. So to just suddenly in the age of, I was 67, to just suddenly have this lady suggested, and then to start to get married and start to live a life with nothing. No romantic notes before, and what? But fortunately, information. Valuable information. And so I could try an experiment. I could do an experiment now. What chosson, how many chassonim today would think that it's the first morning they wake up after they got married, that this person here in this room with them, their wife, is a God-sent opportunity for one thing. What do they need? To do chesed. And not because it's just nice for them. There's nothing better for you. There's nothing better than you could do to uncover the true beauty, to take away whatever's a barrier between you and that pure neshama. And so that's why I started off by saying Jews don't get married. Because marriage is a ridiculous idea of somehow finding somebody who everything will fit together, minimizing your obligations, minimizing your challenges. And then, of course, so I do all kinds of strange things. I'll never leave the house if my wife is there. I did it today as well. She's sitting in the chair. Unfortunately, she has to go around in a wheelchair. She's got problems. She's got no knee, and she's got arthritis and so forth. I'll always go up to her, and even in a funny way, I'll take her hand, I'll give her a kiss on her hand. Never leave the house. You know, this old man, what is he, a little bit cuckoo, you know, sort of thing. Now, even though it sounds a bit cuckoo, there's a message in it. It's a message which words can't convey. You could write a nice love letter, you could write a nice kind of story, but that fact of, and coming in, the first thing coming in, find out where she is to say hello. So, in other words, what does she need? She needs to feel loved. She needs to feel loved. And so anything that you can make, anything you can do, even though you're tired or whatever, you might be upset, she did something happened with, you have to be on Her Majesty's service. You heard of, what was his name, that guy that was on Her Majesty's service? Oh yeah, okay. You guys from a different generation. Okay, so have you got a bit of the idea? So before I go any further, I'd like to ask, I'm watching the expressions on your faces. Some are animated, some are sort of just say, well, let's hear what this old guy's got to say. All different kinds of things. What have you made of what I've presented you with today? Yeah.
So most of us will hopefully be marrying an 18-year-old or thereabouts.
When?
Or thereabouts.
18 months.
18-year-old girl. Thereabouts.
Yeah.
How do we have that life experience when we're just starting out for the first time to, as you say, when you're with your current wife, you get out of bed in the morning and everything's just amazing and you've got all the life experience and everything.
Nothing's amazing. Nothing's amazing. You have to make it step by step. Every action counts. I'll never go out the room without straightening out my bed, even I'm late or something like that. Makes such a difference if she sees that you straighten out the bed, put the pillow, put the pajamas underneath, so forth. Just such a thing. Or you just can, and then she has to come in. Okay, she'll do it. But anything, what am I doing? I'm not being a Boy Scout. I'm consciously perceiving what will make her feel loved, what will make her feel appreciated. So again, as this idea that I've said is proven by the way you produce a child, a baby. The woman creates nothing. The man gives the seed. the woman has the capacity to make of what she's given something significant. So that's no give and take. It's not all these ideas you give and take and so forth. You expect nothing. Demand nothing. Generate in her the beauty that's planted there as a seed. You don't expect the seed to do something for you. You provide the seed with earth to grow in, water and so forth. So that's why the marriage is not he says and she says. It's a one-way process, and that I've tried to sort of share it that way. So now, of course, each of us have been given different aesthetic preferences. Some people like this, some people like that, as physically and so forth. So you find somebody who is reasonably attractive to you, or very attractive to you, whatever it is, but that's not the sole criterion. And meeting the person is more to sort of explore what they're looking for in life, or what their potential is, or what you could build together with them, a sort of thing. And but there has to be a spark, I would say, of some sort of form of attraction. Different people see beauty in different ways. And even an old lady in her late 60s, I saw pictures of her when she was a young girl. She was very beautiful. Now, of course, she's an old bobber. She's got great-grandchildren and so forth. So she was reasonably attractive, and then starts the project with every action, consideration. What impact will this action have? Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
What advice would the Rav give to somebody who wants to get married, but they have fear that they won't be a great husband or a great father or a great provider? What type of advice would you give?
Well, nobody is a great father, a great provider, a great. All you have is the opportunity to try to be, the desire to be, and then, according to the reality of your situation, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will inspire with ideas, with opportunities, with things that you could never have dreamt of. You know, I found it very similar to architecture. You know, you want to design a project, what's going to happen? So you have certain ideas, and then as you start to design it, you begin to, so with God's help, you start to conceive of creating a physical environment and buildings and all sorts of things. So you see, you're not looking for a project that you're going to buy or find or sort out. It's a growth opportunity. And as you do that, as you do acts of kindness, a strange thing happens. You become a Baal Chesed. You can actually become quite a nice fellow. Why? How do you become by giving you a chance to be a nice fellow, and not prejudging yourself. That's the worst thing. You know, I'm this kind of guy. No, you are a project in the making, and what makes is action, and the most beneficial action you can do in any aspect of life, any kind of way you drive, business, is be a source of benefit. Find a way that your action will bring benefit to all concerned and to everything concerned. And that's becoming similar to God. Because God created the world to give of His goodness. Now, I just meant, in the other shir, I defined what's unique about God's goodness and the problem with it. God can't give us His goodness because His goodness is a goodness that nobody gave Him. It's intrinsic to Him. So if God would give us goodness, it won't be His goodness, it will be a goodness which He has given to us. So how did God create a situation where we could attain our own goodness? Not a goodness that we were given, but a goodness which we created, which is what part of your question, that there's a goodness that you're capable of that you haven't got yet. He gave us the potential to create our own goodness. Now how does it become mine and not a God-given goodness? God created the opposite of good called Ra, the Yetzer Hara, the Satan. God created within us constant blocking mechanisms that stop us being good. And it's very sophisticated. Even Moshe Rabbeinu, God got Moshe Rabbeinu to do not what he told him. He told him to speak to the rock, and Moshe Rabbeinu hit the rock. And because of that, he couldn't go into Eretz Yisrael. Because God realized, Moshe Rabbeinu, it's no good if he goes into the land of Israel. If he takes the Jewish people into the land of Israel the way they are, the reality, it'll be a disaster. Because if he takes them in, whatever Moshe did was eternal. And if he takes them in, he'll never be able to send the Jewish people out. And if we don't live up to the way we're supposed to live in Israel, he'll have to destroy us. He won't have the option of sending us into Golus. And if Moshe builds the base of Mikdash, it'll be indestructible. So he won't be able to take out his wrath on the building. He'll have to take it out on us. So there's no way that Moshe could go into Eretz Yisrael. So Kodesh Baruch Hu engineered the whole story to get Moshe to suddenly realize, God wants me to speak to the rock. And if I speak to the rock, I'm going to put the memory of my beloved sister in shame. All the years, 40 years, the Jewish people had had water from the rock of Miriam. How did that rock yield the water? God told him to strike the rock. And now God says, I want you to speak. And the Tzitz Eliezer says, Moshe realized, if I speak to the rock, everybody will say, wow, Miriam was amazing. But you know, Moshe, when he spoke to the rock, we got the water, and that would mar the memory of his love for his sister. See what, David? Right. So that's why. So God engineered the whole story for Moshe to hit the rock. So he couldn't go into Eretz Yisrael, because if he went in, it would be disaster. Now it would take that option. He could send us into Golus, we'd still survive. You could destroy the vessel, we'd still survive. Now, it's interesting. When we daven for rain, just listen to this. We say a strange thing to God. We say, God, give us rain even if we don't deserve it. Otherwise, why are we davening for rain? If we're going to get the rain anyway, then we wouldn't have to daven for it. So we're davening to God to give us rain when we don't deserve it. And you know what the Tzitz says? We're saying to God as follows, you know Moshe Rabbeinu. How could he ever go against you? He could never do it against you. You know how hard it was for Moshe Rabbeinu to do not what you told him because of his love for his sister. We're asking you, God, when you judge truthfully, we don't deserve rain. Give us rain. Go against yourself. Go against your truth as God and give us the rain. That's the basis of it. So now, when you start saying, no, I'm living with this woman, I've got to sometimes go against how I feel. I've got to go against whatever my subjectivity is. I've got to put aside what she said and what she did and all that kind of stuff, and I've got to be focused on one thing. Give us the rain, God. So hit the rock, Moshe, not to disturb the memory of your sister. Even at your expense of you not going into Eretz Yisrael, because ultimately that's what counts. So what counts is the sacrifice. And that's why, and we haven't got a chance to discuss it now, well, we'll see how much we could go, the weirdest thing, the physical relations between a man and a woman. Completely different response. The whole thing is a big mess. And that's why all kinds of nonsense goes on in the world for women trying to make believe and present and all that sort of, and men are just interested in one thing. They're interested in their own physical gratification, which they can get in 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. So what's a husband's mitzvah in the physical relations? It's a mitzvah for him to have physical relations with his wife. What's his mitzvah? Not to have the physical gratification for as long as possible. It's a mitzvah for him to conduct himself in his physical relations with his wife to prolong the period before he will have physical gratification, and to deal with her body in whichever way will stimulate her to attain her maximum gratification and so forth. And then to have his physical gratification together with her. So now look at that. In that whole, you turned what is the most sadly, in a way, disgusting, degrading activity, sex, into a mitzvah, into kedusha. And so when a Jewish man and his wife, particularly for the husband, is conducting himself with a total focus on chesed, he converts all the physical activities which in the world around us are so degrading into kedusha. He's doing kedusha, he's doing sanctification, he's sanctifying the activity which in the world, in a sense, has become the most degrading activity that you could possibly do, the extent to which people degrade themselves. So now we see this part fitting the whole process together. And a baby born, when a husband and a wife were relating to each other in total harmony, as a product of the husband resisting his potential pleasure to as long as possible, to provide his wife with the opportunity for her body to take her process. He's conducting himself with her in total consideration of her physiology. Can you get a bigger giving than that? So what kind of a baby will be the product of that? That's how you have Kedusha. That's how you have children that will be B'nai Torah, Talmidei Chacham, Yirei Shamayim, and so forth and so on. So it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. It's part of the whole integrated way God created the world. It's one big system. And there isn't sex, and there isn't this, and there isn't over what's wrong and what's evil, and so forth and so on. The evil, Ra, is potential, misleading desires, challenges, which we presented with, for us to overcome and sanctify. So you take the whole process of physical relations between a man and a woman, which in the world around us is that which drags everybody down, messes everybody up, makes all kinds of things, men and women and all kinds. You've got this most sad thing going on, and all people trying to justify what they're doing and rationalize and so forth. Nothing will come to the beauty of a Jewish man, a Jewish woman, having their whole physical side of their relations predicated on the husband's Harei at mekudeshesti. I am undertaking to sanctify you. What sanctity? Responding to the need of what you're dealing with. What does the woman need? Besides love, besides all the emotions, physically, she needs stimulation in a particular manner in order to her to reach her maximum physical gratification. So his manner of giving her the physical stimulation in a loving, hidden way, not so obvious and so forth, he totally subjugates his desires and channels it in response to a need. That's the biggest, in physical terms, act of making love. Where in the world around us would you use this word, making love? He goes and he buys time with a certain woman's body, and he says making love? It's got nothing to do with love. He's just using her body for his own physical, it's got nothing to do with love. There's no emotional feeling of real appreciation. So how only people in the world who can really make love is a husband who is being mekadesh his wife. So that is a whole, as these ideas emerged over the years, it became very fascinating, because it's not that you're frum, you can't touch a woman, you can't do this, woman must dress. Why should a woman dress in a way to stimulate the God-given consequence of her physiology to innocent young men? Why should she wear a split, this and that? It's a terrible thing to do. She's cheapening herself. She's making herself into an object of desire, not a person. When a man is attracted physically to somebody, she's irrelevant. It's just her body. It's what pleasure he could derive from using her body. You can't cheapen yourself in a worse way. So when we've got all the strict laws of tznius, of separation of men and women, at wedding separation of men and women, and curtains and all this kind of stuff, it's to retain the potential of appreciating a woman as a person and respecting her dignity and respecting her worth and not getting carried away the way the Yetzer. What makes you do it? The Yetzer Hara. God gave your Yetzer an evil inclination. You've got an evil inclination to see these things, to experience these things, and so forth and so on. And what happens to all those people? Look at the world around you. Look at the divorce rate. And divorce rate is just a small sample. People live together in misery, fighting, feeling badly done by, the husband feeling not appreciated, the woman feeling also not appreciated, and then they manage to go to marriage counseling, and they have all kinds of stuff. And what's at the heart of the matter? The husband doesn't realize what he said under the chuppah. That one sentence. He doesn't realize the power of clarity that sentence gives us. So he's not becoming holy. He doesn't have to become a monk. So by the world out there that haven't got a Torah, how can a man retain some sort of elevated status? He must never have anything to do with a woman, become a monk. And you get it in Eastern religion, you get it in the Catholic Church, you get all this kind of, what a sad thing. What a sad thing to cut out of your life such a creative, such an exciting, such a wonderful opportunity of interacting with another human being. And interacting, not just interacting, for you to become one, to become like one. There isn't a nicer way to be with another human being than to feel at one with them. That you actually are excited at their success and you're saddened by their failure. And that their sense of well-being is as important to you as yours. Not because you're supposed to be frum, and not because it's moral and anything like that. You become loving. And so Moshe Rabbeinu, what he felt for his sister, she brought him into the world. Or when the Egyptians were throwing all the Jewish boys into the river, so Miriam's father, she was 8 years old, Miriam's father separated from his mother. And the mother separated, said, we can't have children. How can we have children? If it's a boy, they'll throw him in the river. And Miriam said, you're worse than Paro. With Paro, there'll be no boys, but with you, there'll be no further children. And so her parents got remarried. And because they got remarried, Moshe was born. What gratitude Moshe must have to his sister. And she stood by the river Nile when he's put in the ground, all that sort of stuff, and so forth. And so Moshe was put in the invidious position where he had to go against everything that he was. Everything that he was, and hit the rock when God told him to speak to it, and as a consequence lose the ultimate fulfillment to take Klal Yisrael into the Eretz Yisrael for the love of his sister. And so, interesting, in that same parsha we find just the same idea, interesting idea. You know, when a person became Tameh, the Parah Duma, that whole sort of thing, the Parah Duma, what a strange story. But I saw a rabbi say, interesting thing. At the heart of it, the Kohen who prepares the dust to sprinkle on the person who is impure, he becomes impure when he does it for the person. And that's an ultimate chesed. To lose your quality for somebody else's need. And so now, you want to fall in love. You want to get married to somebody. We can all deal with each other, nice way and so forth, but there's one kind of a experience, husband and wife, that is beyond. It's beyond parents and children, it's beyond brothers and sisters, it's beyond boser echod. V'yihiyu, to be leboser echod, like one person. That their pain is your pain, their need is your need. It's not anymore that you're sort of doing the chesed. Your body, your hand just goes out and does what they need without you even thinking. So my bracha to you is that each of you in your own way, it's a wonderful creative experience, and please God, we should all be able to see the simchas in each other's life and achieve it. And of course I'm available for any other further questions if you have.
What's your advice
The only time you know you're marrying the right woman is when you finish saying that sentence and put the ring on her finger. That's the right woman.
What are the criteria, if you rephrase a bit, what are the criteria which is like to choose the right woman, like to match, and what are the criteria that are not so important? Like?
Whatever, first of all, physical attraction is very personal, but you're looking for a good person, as much as possible, a good person.
Oh, like working ladies at home, for example, some looking who wants to, the woman who is able to.
Life will change, circumstances of life will make a housewoman a work, or working woman a house. There isn't classifications by people what they do. It's classifications of how they do what they're doing.
I mean, like, but there are like some people who are like, even if I have all the money in the world, I would still work because I just love working.
Because they've got no meaning in life.
No, even with meaning, just like because they want a different. And some say, no, I want to just be stay-at-home mom.
Well, you've got choice to do whatever you want with your life, as long as you do it in a legitimate way.